Hello Gearfacts chums, I've got a bit of a messy video for you today, but a very important one, a subject that isn't discussed enough in music stores, and that is your choice of keyboard stand and how it really matters. Let's have a look at a few different variations. Single brace stands like this one do tend to be a little more flimsy, but they fold up very neatly, they're very cheap to buy, and they do tend to look a little bit more tidy. They're also easier to work around if you have a lot of cables and things on the floor. Here we've got a double braced stand, and you can see straight away why that would be much more stable. So these X stands are very portable and very dependable. The only downside is that if you are putting them in a permanent position, it's very hard to stick any other equipment underneath them. Also, it can interfere with your feet position. This kind of apparatus is thoroughly outdated, and it's a real shame because it is an excellent design and you just don't see it anymore. You can't buy it in the shops, but if you do find one of these second hand, I suggest you grab it because it won't be expensive, and if your keyboard's compatible, it'll be a really good thing. And here's why. We're underneath the keyboard now, and as you can see, there is a mechanism there that screws into the holes at the bottom of the keyboard. Most mainstream keyboards have these screw holes, and there's one in the middle there which stabilizes the whole structure. Very light aluminium construction, but when everything's anchored in the center with this screw hole, it's all completely dependable, and there are virtually no obstacles for your knees, for your feet, or an amplifier, or any other things that you want to put underneath it. Not only that, it's unbelievably mobile. You pick up the keyboard, and because it's screwed in, the whole lot comes with you, and it weighs virtually nothing. Here's a more permanent version of the same thing. Again, it's a square shape, so you can stick anything that you want under there. It does have the screw holes also. This one's clearly very old and a little bit rusty, but if you're not going to be moving your keyboard around much and you just want to work with a practical system, then these kinds of keyboard stands are a great way to go. It is worth taking a moment to have a look at the kind of locking mechanism that will keep this stand at the right height and in the right position. Ones like this are nice and simple. It just has several gradients or positions. You pull this one out, it's spring loaded, and you'll need two hands to do this, and unfortunately I don't have two hands because I'm holding the camera, but you simply push the stand down a little bit and get it to the right height. Might take a bit of trial and error, but that's a nice, quick, easy system. If you want something a bit more robust and a bit more permanent though, these clamp systems are really good. So you can see the teeth there, many different gradients, and also this handle here. It's extremely sturdy, very quick and easy to set up and easy to get into the right position. One thing to be aware of though, don't unclamp that while your keyboard's on top of it. The whole thing just drops on the ground. So it's a very good, solid system, but it might be a good idea to get someone to help you set up when you're putting one of these together. Another advantage of the crank system that you can see down there is that you can get a very exact height to put your keyboard at. This stand, which I showed you a moment ago, as you know, has the different locations for the pin there. The unfortunate thing is, I can only have that too high or too low. The closest I can get it is about there, which is significantly higher than I would like it to be. Another thing to consider is the width of the bars that are actually going to hold up the keyboard. As you can see here, we've got a weighted key piano. It's a big instrument, but the bar is a little bit too wide because the depth of the instrument is so small that it protrudes from both ends. And if I take that all the way to the front, then we're going to end up with a bit of a balance problem. So that's something else to watch out for. This one, for example, has quite a big difference between the depth of the part that holds the keyboard up and the part that sits on the ground. This is the part that sits on the ground. Look how much shorter the support rod is. This would be a more suitable horizontal bar length for this particular keyboard. It won't protrude anywhere near as much as this one. The time may come, of course, when you want to put one keyboard neatly above another, and that's when you need to extend your existing keyboard stand, and you do that by buying a pair of these risers here. As you can see, there's a component that sticks into the rod that comes out of the back of your existing keyboard stand. Now, if you are going to buy one of these risers, be sure that this pipe here is thick enough to fit the component that goes in there and tightens up using this crank right here. And this is the mechanism that I'm talking about. As you operate the crank here, the screw extends, forcing these two apart, and they hold the thing completely firm inside that outer tube. But of course, your outer tube has to be able to fit those, so check that. And I did set this one up with my big keyboard and everything, and I was all good to go. And then I realized with horror that this does not fit in, so the whole setup had to be redone. There we are, nice and firm. So this is my setup now, and I have to say it's not really how I would like it. I do find these X stands are a little bit untidy looking, so at some later stage I'd like to get the proper actual Yamaha stand for this digital piano, because that would just be one leg on the left, one leg on the right. I would much rather have restored this old relic and used that for the heavy keyboard, but of course it won't fit those upper tiers. And we've got the age-old problem of things accumulating around the feet of the stand. I'd like to have more room for all that gear, but that's the way it goes. Sometimes near enough just has to do. What I've shown you, of course, is not everything. There are plenty of different types of keyboard stands, and here are some alternatives that you might consider. Since looking at the examples you've just seen, I've also tried Roland's Z stand. If you've got a bit of extra budget, they're very, very solid, but quite quick to set up. In all the years I've been doing this, I've only ever seen one of these, this old Casio stand that I've found. It's unbelievably strong because it's all just one piece of U-shaped metal there. I'd be a bit concerned about that. And a final warning, choosing the wrong keyboard stand can result in a great deal of frustration and disappointment. And in some cases, like mine, it can result in lukewarm, grudging acceptance. Thanks again for watching Gearfacts, guys. I hope you found this rather unusual Gearfacts video informative and a little bit helpful. There really is more to consider than meets the eye when you choose a keyboard stand. So look forward to seeing you next time. That's Gearfacts for today.